left us stranded. What's going on, guys? Stefan here, S&E's garage. The Camry left us stranded. Alright guys, so like you just saw, we had to get this car towed home yesterday. But believe it or not, this car will still start up, run, and drive just fine. And the reason that it had to be towed home is no fault of its own. So let's pop the hood. We're going to fix it, and I'm going to explain to you exactly what happened here. So on my way to work yesterday, I made it, I work about 40 miles away, so I made it about 10-15 miles, and I started to smell something. And transmission fluid, when it's burning, has a very distinct smell, especially fresh transmission fluid, and that's what's in this. We have a couple fresh quarts of WS trans fluid in this. We flushed it quite a few videos ago, but it is something that we did. And I started smelling it, and I was uh-oh. So it wasn't, I didn't think it was dire, so I went ahead, got to work. As soon as I got to work, I popped the hood. And this radiator is an aftermarket DENSO radiator that we put in about 2 years ago, and actually it's featured in one of my videos. I'll link it down below in case you need a tutorial on exactly how to change this radiator, because we're not going to do that in this video. We already did. But we put a DENSO aftermarket radiator in this, figuring that DENSO is the original equipment supplier. But unfortunately, when I got that radiator, it said made in China on it. It was either China or Taiwan. Once I get it out, we'll confirm. But that kind of raised suspicion because usually they're made in Japan. So I don't know if that's something that they do now or if that's just where their aftermarket radiators are made. So instead of buying another aftermarket radiator, we went here with an OEM Toyota unit. It was only about $50–$60 more, and it's what the car came with. The original radiator lasted 160,000 miles and over 10 years, so we're not going to cut costs anymore. We're going to put an original radiator in it. So what had happened is, if you see this down here is all soaked in transmission fluid. The fitting over here, where that hose goes in, that steel hose, is actually leaking very badly. So if I start the car, I'll show you that it's leaking to the point where it's getting under the car, hitting the exhaust, and then the exhaust is burning it. You'll see under here is all covered in trans fluid. We have quite a few drips here on the ground, and I didn't want a chance driving this home. There was still plenty of fluid on the dipstick, and by all rights, I probably would have made it home okay, but if that fitting that is leaking would have completely failed or ruptured, I would have been stuck on the shoulder of the roadway instead of in my job, and I could have potentially cooked this transmission, and that just wasn't worth it to me. So let's fire it up. Let me show you exactly what's leaking. As you saw in the video, there was a steady drip coming from that. It wasn't a slow leak. It was, I mean, it was a slow leak, but it wasn't. It was leaking more than I was comfortable with to drive it 40 miles home. So here it is. We got it towed home yesterday. And like I said, we're going to fix it using OEM parts and OEM fluid. Sometimes, yeah, you'll save some money with aftermarket. There's no doubt about it. But in the long run, sometimes it's a gamble, and it'll cost you more in the end, like it did for us. We only got 2 years and 40,000 miles out of this radiator, which to me, you shouldn't have to put a radiator in a car every 2 years. It's not something you should have to do. So let's get this fixed. Let's burp it. Let's inspect. What I'm going to do once I get this radiator out, we're going to compare the original equipment Toyota to the aftermarket DENSO. We're going to see if there's any major differences, and we'll go from there. Alright guys, we got this old radiator. I say old, it's only 2 years old radiator. About ready to come out. We got the new one out of the box, and I'm actually a little disappointed here because DENSO, made in Taiwan. DENSO, made in Taiwan. So I don't know if Toyota started cheaping out with the radiators on these cars because they're, you know, an old model now, and this literally looks like a reboxed aftermarket DENSO radiator. So hopefully we have better luck with this one. This fitting here is the one that's leaking on that radiator. So let's get it out the rest of the way. I'm just letting it finish draining, and then I just have one hose to pull off, and we'll pull it out with the fans. But really not excited or happy here with what we got from Toyota. We basically paid, you know, $60 more for a reboxed aftermarket DENSO radiator. So take that with a grain of salt, but let's get this thing out. All right, guys, we got our OEM DENSO Toyota made in Taiwan radiator put back in the car. We have our super long life coolant in there. We topped off our transmission with some WS trans fluid. Hopefully this one lasts for a little longer than 2 years. The car's got 204,000 miles on it now. Yep, 204, 168. And we put about 40,000 miles on the last radiator. So hopefully this one lasts longer than that, but only time will tell. Like, share, and subscribe if this video helped you. We'll see you on the next one.